Welcome to KeyStageWiki. What would happen to the population of grass if all the lions became extinct? That might sound like a strange question at first, but when you think about it, all organisms on Earth are connected. There is a network of relationships between organisms in a community. This is known as interdependence. One way in which organisms are linked is by feeding relationships. Every organism on Earth either provides energy and nutrition for others or depends on other organisms for their energy and nutrition. So what happens to one population of organisms affects them all. Scientists represent these feeding relationships with a diagram called a food chain. This is a diagram that shows the transfer of energy between organisms. In this food chain, we can see that zebra rely on grass, lions rely on zebra, and vultures rely on the lions. However, as we will see in a later video on food webs, the vulture is a scavenger that will eat any meat it can find. So let's think back to our original question. If there were no lions, then the zebra would have no predators eating them. So there would be a greater number of zebra, which would mean more grass would be eaten, lowering the population of grass. So even though the lions don't eat the grass, the survival of the grass depends upon the existence of the lions. A food chain is divided into trophic levels. In this example, grass is the first trophic level, zebra are the second, lions are the third, and vultures are the fourth trophic level. In this food chain, an oak tree is the first trophic level. Truffles grow on the roots of the oak tree, extracting energy and nutrients, so they occupy the second trophic level. Boar eat the truffles, so they occupy the third trophic level. And since wolves hunt, kill, and eat the boar, then wolves are in the fourth trophic level. In this food chain, phytoplankton is the first trophic level, krill are the second, penguins are the third, and killer whales are the fourth trophic level. At the base of the food chain, on the first trophic level, we always have a producer. In this example, grass is the producer. A producer is an organism that makes its own food using inorganic chemicals and an external energy source. Usually this is done by photosynthesis, in which organisms take carbon dioxide and water and use light as an energy source to convert these into glucose. Producers may also be called autotrophs. Plants are the most well-known example of an autotroph that uses photosynthesis, but there are other organisms which photosynthesize, like phytoplankton or algae, which, even though they are green and photosynthesize, are not plants because they don't have roots or leaves. There are also some producers that do not use photosynthesis, such as bacteria trapped underground in deep caves, or those so deep in the ocean that sunlight cannot reach, providing a completely different energy source for an entire food chain. Suffice to say, at this stage, you only need to worry about photosynthetic producers. The trophic level above producers are known as primary consumers. In this example, we have a zebra. These are the organisms that gain energy and nutrition from producers. Consumers may also be referred to as heterotrophs. Animals are the most well-known heterotrophs, but they are not the only organisms that gain their energy and nutrition from other organisms. Fungi are another example of heterotrophs, which feed on a variety of other organisms. The example seen here is a tree fungus, which extracts energy and nutrients from the bark of a tree. On the third trophic level, we have secondary consumers, in this case, a lion. These are organisms that gain their energy and nutrition from primary consumers. Finally, on the fourth trophic level, we have tertiary consumers. In this example, we have a vulture. These are organisms that gain their energy and nutrition from secondary consumers. In this example food chain, the producer is the oak tree because it makes its own food. The primary consumer is the truffle because it feeds on the oak tree. The secondary consumer is the boar because they feed on the truffles. And the tertiary consumer is the wolf. In this example food chain, the producers are phytoplankton because they make their own food. The primary consumers are krill because they feed on the phytoplankton. The secondary consumers are penguins because they feed on the krill. And finally, the tertiary consumers are killer whales. So what do the arrows represent on a food chain? These show us the direction of energy transfer from one organism to the next. Now remember, when drawing your own food chain, it does not need to be written from bottom to top. You can also draw it from left to right. The only important direction here is the arrows showing the direction of energy transfer from the food to the consumer of that food. Luckily, you also don't need to be an artist. It's enough just to write the names of the organisms with the arrows to show the energy transfer. Can you spot the error in this food chain? Pause the video now if you need time to think carefully. That's right, the arrows were pointing in the wrong direction. The arrows should always be pointing in the direction of energy transfer, not pointing from the animal to the organism that it wants to eat. The answers to the following questions are shown at the end of the video. See if you can write your own 2 food chains using these organisms. Pause the video now to give it a try. Write this food chain out and then add labels including the different consumers, the producer, and a label for each trophic level. Pause the video. Sometimes a biologist might observe organisms feeding on one another. Use this description to write down your own food chain. Pause the video. On the food chain you have just drawn, label the consumers, the producer, each trophic level, and the autotroph and heterotrophs. For more information on food chains, visit KeyStageWiki.com. And for further videos, like the video and subscribe to this channel.